Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yep.
Hello, Dougal. How's it going?
Oh, g'day, Anna. Pretty good. It's hot down here in Wanaka. I'm actually sitting in my pain cave, so I'm quite glad I'm not sitting on Zwift tonight.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty warm. I don't know what it's like down in Wanaka. I'll just see if it sounds like my here we go. That would be it. I'm watching the stream live myself. So hello everyone on Facebook and YouTube and Sky Sport Next as well. So yeah, we've got Dougal Allen here tonight. A bit of a different commentator in the box. Usually it's Rob Dallymore. He's off riding around Southland or Swanuring, he said. But tonight we're going to pick Dougal's brains about racing, training, and all things triathlon and multisport. So welcome, Dougal. I'll give you a proper welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. It's nice to be here, and yeah, hopefully I can offer something intelligent tonight for people to take away and think about as race season approaches.
Yeah, so tonight we've got a pretty short race. We've got Tinman happening this weekend. So one of the first national champs events of the season. Pretty exciting, and they've got a great turnout. So a few people will be coming in tonight just testing out those race legs. It's about 17 kilometers. The course, we'll have a look at what we're sort of facing tonight. This is the Champs-Élysées course in France. I know you do a bit of Zwifting yourself, Dougal. Do you have you done this course yourself?
Yeah, I think I have done it a few times. I tend to try and distract myself a little bit when I'm riding with other entertainment options. So often I'm oblivious to where I'm actually riding. But yeah, I think I've left a few skid marks around the French course that we got tonight.
Yeah, nice. Well, as you can see, it's only 6.6 kilometers. Bit of a lead in at 3 kilometers. I think the whole race tonight about 17. Almost a dead flat course. There's a little sprint stage you can just see on there on the gradient with the green flag. Up a little incline, so that'll push some legs and maybe break the pack a bit. But yeah, I see it as being a very quick race tonight, and hopefully people will get those race legs ready for about 3 days' time that they'll be racing.
Yeah, how exciting is that, Anna? Like we're talking about races. That's just amazing, isn't it?
Oh, it's so good. It's you kind of look around at what's happening in the world and more races getting cancelled. I know Tour Down Under just closed up shop and won't be happening in 2021. So I think we're pretty blessed here to be able to have a full race season ahead of us.
Absolutely. I mean, it's I raced the Challenge Wanaka Multi on the weekend, and the general vibe there was just gratitude. I think people, as you say, they feel very fortunate to be racing, and for a lot of our loyal Zwifters, hopefully it's an opportunity to start to test that fitness they've developed through lockdown and through winter.
Yeah, exactly. So, heading into the first race of the season, what would you be doing this week? What would your race week look like?
Oh, I mean, it's an unknown for a lot of people, myself included, given it has been a long time since racing. So I I think I would encourage people just to try and enjoy the process of leading into a race, because it's something that was never a guarantee a few months ago. So really just enjoy the nerves that we all feel as race day approaches. These are things, as I say, that we're never guaranteed. So appreciate the nerves and appreciate obviously the preparation that goes into trying to get race day right, and also just realize it is the first race of the season for a lot of people, so it's not going to go perfectly, and it's an opportunity, I guess, just to gauge where things are at, and learn some really key things as the hopefully the races over summer continue to unfold.
Yeah, and we look back at the winter. I mean, it was a bit of a crazy time. We're all stuck in our houses. I know that you do a lot of coaching yourself. What was your way that you approached it with your athletes, knowing that the races, a lot of them were cancelled or they were really just up in the air as to whether they'd happen or not?
Yeah, I think when we removed the races, we were able to really shed light on the individual person, and where their strengths and weaknesses lay. Because often when we're training with racing being the center of our training approaches, it's easy to move away from our individual strengths and weaknesses and focus on the profile of the race itself. So that was a thing, I guess, I encouraged a lot of my athletes to do, was just to start to look at themselves as triathletes or multi-sporters, and regardless of what events might or might not happen in the future, look at ways to improve on their current athletic qualities, I guess.
Yeah. We'll just switch over now to the men's race, which has kicked off. We've looked at an early lead here from C. Clark. Bit of a tight field today, I have to say. So we've got quite a few internationals, a couple of Kiwis here. I think everyone is really getting out there in the sunshine and looking forward to that race season. And I know there's a lot of club nights that are happening now on Wednesdays, and it is good to see a field coming in here from the A's, who is quite strong, being joined by an international contingent. But this is going to be a bit different to what I had anticipated. I think this is going to break up a lot quicker on that first sprint stage. They're just heading along this first cobbled section, quite long here. About 3 kilometers before they hit the first little climb, heading into the Champs Elysees. Do you watch the Tour de France yourself?
I'm someone who definitely follows the race as it unfolds, and tune into highlights and things, but I'm certainly not someone who can sit through 4 or 5 hours of bike racing.
Yeah. um, so, what's your schedule looking like this summer, Dougal?
Well, hopefully, for me, the coast to coast is sort of the big goal, and who knows, I might do Ironman New Zealand too. That's sort of what I did
Oh,
last summer
okay.
on a whim. I feel like if I'm really fit for the coast to coast, that becomes quite transferable. Obviously, my swims never flash at the best of times, so if I can duck under an hour, I'm usually pretty hopeful of being competitive. So yeah, coast to coast is the big focus, and perhaps Ironman New Zealand too.
And how do you use Zwift? I know that you coach a few athletes who are on Zwift. I'm friends with Mel, who has been on there a little bit over the winter. How do you utilize it as a training tool with your athletes?
Oh, it's huge to me now as a coach, but also for me personally as an athlete. I think what Zwift offers us is the opportunity really focus on key fitness qualities. So as a coach, I can really build sessions that are specific to an individual, and know that in erg mode they can really execute what I'm hoping they do on the bike for that given session. But also just that fun factor, like racing on Zwift is it's such a exciting way to build fitness and interact with other riders.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say, I jumped on today and did a team time trial, and I'm still feeling the effects. That was about 4 hours ago. It's I think the team element, and I think that's what really worked for us, over the winter months was having all the clubs involved, all the coach groups. You feel like you're sort of racing for a team, which just, as triathletes, we are seen as a bit of an individual sport, and it is a way that I think we can sort of come together a bit more and earn those points for our regions and our clubs.
Totally. And I think we so often overlook the importance of fun, when it comes to training. And Zwift definitely offers that. I mean, my 6-year-old Flynn, who's probably actually watching us right now, he he stole his mum's bike and rode on Zwift. And actually I looked at his power, and power to weight was quite impressive. But it was almost like a video game to him. He just thought it
Yeah.
was exciting. And I think it's the same for us as adults. It's just a really fun and interactive way to race our bikes, or even just prepare for events by training on our bikes.
Yeah, well, it is quite good. I think, a course like tonight, 17 kilometers, you can sit there in the draft, but you can put in some good little race pace efforts, heading up to those sprint stages, up the climbs. And I know that with the athletes I coach, just those shorter sort of 40-minute sessions in race week, brush off the cobwebs. I think a lot of people will be nervous come the weekend when they're towing the start line, which, to be honest, has been a very, very long time coming.
Yeah, totally. It's really cool too. These smaller pelotons, it actually can often make for more exciting racing, because there's a lot more opportunities to make breaks and cover breaks and things. So I think what we're seeing here is a pretty exciting little race unfolding.
Yeah, and we do have the woman kicking off in about just over 3 minutes. So that'll be good to see how that plays out as well. I mean, it is a great thing that I have seen in the eSport area, just the parity they have between women and men. I think triathlon has sort of led the way with that, with equal prize money, and but I know cycling is, well far behind the eight ball, and it is good to see the equality on Zwift, paying as much attention to the women's racing as the men's racing. So yeah, like I said, the women kicking off now in about just over 2 minutes. So looks like we've got Jackie Maitland already commenting. In the pens, talking about it's very wet in Nelson, so it's probably why there's a few women jumping on the trainer bikes.
Yeah, women's sport, but it's certainly, because I follow obviously endurance sport. It is a amazingly it's evolving so quickly, and I follow a lot of the high end, the elite fields across triathlon and multi-sport. And I think forward to the coast to coast that's coming in February, and there's probably 5 women that could win that race. Like it's an amazing atmosphere right now around women's racing. So looking forward to the women kicking off in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, yeah, no, that'd be great. And what would be your strategy on a course like tonight as we watch them just hit this first sort of little climb heading up to the Arc de Triomphe?
Yeah, well, like I say, these smaller groups offer more opportunities, I guess, to have a crack. And I can see there's an Australian, C. Munro. I'm wondering if that's my old mate Casey Munro, who raced as a professional triathlete for a long time. Um, Someone like him, even though he's retired from professional sport, he's probably looking at some of these small climbs and perhaps some corners and things to sort of use that time trial strength that you develop as a long distance triathlete. So probably that short burst of energy in a small group like this might give you the gap, and then this early in the race, I guess you're signing up for a pretty hard time trial effort if you get away.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, with the smaller group, you can actually get away. As we see Clark here, he's just pulling ahead a little bit, pushing up to around 4.5 watts per kg, heading up to that sprint banner. And this is a really brutal because you hit the sprint banner, but you don't actually finish the climb there. You've still got a little ways to go. And it always surprised me. I remember watching the Tour de France, and I just didn't realize the sprint stage at the end around the Champs-Elysees had this hill, and it's really hard to ride. As we see, Clark did take that sprint jersey, and he's moving a little bit clear of the riders behind him.
Yeah, that was some pretty amazing power, eh? I think he was up in the high 500s there. So this early in the race, obviously already starting to lose a bit of gravy, as we say. I'm sure he's already got his sweat going, and yeah, it's exciting to follow.
Yeah, well, we're just 30 seconds away from the women kicking their race off, and the men already 5 kilometers in, so they're already a quarter of the way through this race, just at 7 minutes. So, like I said, it's going to be a very quick blitz around this Champs Elysees course. I'm just trying to pull up some stats on some of the riders here to see what I think will end up in a sprint finish, who might have the chops to take this out. And We're looking here at some max watts, ooh, around 889 from the Swiss rider, who's actually just fallen off the pace. So that's not great for that rider if they've got that great sprint.
Oh, totally. And who knows, there might be a few in this group that are aware of his sprint abilities and are looking for an opportunity to shake him early.
Exactly. We'll tune into the women's race here just for a little bit. We've got Amanda Robinson, actually an athlete I used to coach. She's a powerhouse and a Zwift addict, so she knows what she's doing. I think this is going to be a pretty exciting race on the women's side. We've got S. Williamson just behind her, but Amanda Robinson was kicking off around 6 watts per kg right out of the gate.
Yeah, that's amazing. I looked at that too, and her absolute power value was in the 400, so not really any different to the men's racing. So there you go. That says it all. These women they mean business, and
Yeah.
they're serious athletes. So this will be cool to follow alongside the men's race.
Yeah, exactly. And they've gone away clear. So S. Williamson and Amanda Robinson here have pulled away around 3 seconds from Sophie Lysett, uh, Emma Nugent, and Nick Sproul. So that's a big group behind them. I do think they may get caught because that gap's just down to 2 seconds now. But I think they've just taken the approach short race, let's just go hard from the gun.
Yeah, and if that's Sophie Williamson, again, sometimes you know you have to guess on the first name a little bit, but a Kiwi with the name S Williamson could well be Sophie, and we know
It
she's
is
raced at
Sophie,
a
yes.
yeah, so she's raced at a professional level in the past. So going early for someone with her ability could be a pretty interesting tactic, and who knows if she's got the likes of A Robinson there, they could get away early, which would be quite an amazing feat, really.
So you know Sophie?
Yeah, so the Williamson family, James Williamson, who's racing the Tour of Southland right now, their dad was instrumental in their upbringing on the bike. He's a really clever coach, and so it's in their DNA. So Sophie spent plenty of time overseas racing bikes, and it's really neat to see her using Zwift as part of her own, racing, but probably in this case her training preparation for some of the bigger events that are on the horizon.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we've just seen, as I said, I thought they'd get caught. They've actually pulled away now to a 5 second lead with Sophie pulling some turns here at around 5 watts per kg. And they're working really well together as a pair, which is good to see because they won't be able to chat. I doubt that they'd be on a race radio like some teams are in the Zwift racing, but they've obviously just come to a little ladies agreement here that they're going to work together, and that's pretty smart racing because they've pulled away now 6 seconds on Emma Nugent, who is I would say an extremely good Zwift racer. Eva Nugent, sorry, extremely good Zwift racer, and they're doing extremely well to have pulled away so much time already with only not even 2k under their belt.
Yeah, that's a pretty brave effort, but 6 seconds is a pretty tough gap to close at the best of times. What are your intuitions here, Anna? Do you think we've got the first and second up the road now, or
So I go with the magic number of 15. So if they can get 15 seconds on that chase group behind, then I think they'll win. Anything under that, then the group sort of has the advantage. That group behind is four strong, and they've got Karen Russo, also really good, Sophie Lysett, coached by Rob Dallymore, and Nick Sproul, and also Alexa Westphal, just behind Nick. And that is a really heavy hitting group. And I think they're really hovering around that 6 second mark, just creeping up to 7 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that and see if they can pull ahead to that magic 15 mark. We'll have a look at what's happening in the men's race as they're coming through very quickly to finish off their first lap.
yeah, look at that power, eh? Gee, this is honest. Like it's still up in the 400s, which is quite amazing. It's good to see that cadence sitting nice and efficiently in the 90s too, eh?
Yeah, it's interesting one on Zwift because I personally ride a really slow cadence on Zwift, way slower than I would in the real world, just because you seem to be able to generate more power on your trainer, just sort of cranking at about 75 to 80 as opposed to 90 to 95. What's your thoughts, when you're racing and cadence preferences? Do you think there's a magic cadence number, or is it just, what people prefer?
Yeah, well, in my experience, I'm keen to hear your thoughts, especially with your expertise when it comes to Zwift, particularly. But in a general sense with cycling, I do obviously acknowledge that it's quite an individual thing. So, if someone's performing really well at 80, I'm not going to demand that they get to 90 necessarily. But I think what we generally see, and I'm probably specializing more in the long distance triathlon game, is that sort of 85 to 95 is probably that sweet spot spectrum where most people are going to be most efficient. But as you say, some are going to prefer that lower cadence. But how do you sort of see it from a Zwift point of view?
Yeah, it was quite interesting watching the Z Pro Triathlon series over the winter and looking at the sort of evolution of a triathlete coming onto Zwift. And initially, down in the aero bars at that 90 cadence, and they just tended to get dropped by the riders like Lucy Charles Barclay, who sort of has been on Zwift for a while. And I looked, and she was riding at sometimes 65, 70, and just cranking this huge power out. And I guess, it's they're not having to get off and run. So they may as well just completely decimate their legs just to eke out all the watts that they can. So that's sort of the strategy I would go with for sure on this platform. In a triathlon, definitely not following that, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. It just shows, how specialized we have to get for certain events, which keeps it exciting. It means you can't just train certain qualities and expect them to transfer across the board.
Yeah, exactly. And I know last year you changing tack a bit. You did a few adventure races over in China. Are they the multi-stage adventure races? We sort of sleeping 2 hours a night and
Yeah, most of the racing that we do in China is stage racing, so we get a full night's sleep. But it means the days are really high intensity. So it's generally between 3 and probably up 6, 7 hours of racing each day. So, you do wake up in that hotel room with the worst DOMs of your life, knowing that you've still got a couple of days to go. So it's a different type of physical torture to the expedition adventure racing, where sleep deprivation's more of a limiting factor, perhaps.
yeah, and I think what I am noticing is a lot of triathletes, just with some of the big events off the calendar, the Konas and the 70.3 Worlds, they've taken to a bit of adventuring. I just got back from Stewart Island and they've had the busiest October on record. And I do know a few triathletes have just decided this is the time they're gonna, do some different things. Try to do some fastest known times, um, go do a coast to coast. Yeah, so it's kind of shaken things up a little bit, which is always good.
Oh, absolutely. I'm such a big fan of skill learning, skill acquisition, and I think by varying your training approaches, regardless of what your race is, that skill set development can only be a good thing, right?
Oh,
Because
exactly.
across age groups and even in the professional field, our fitness tends to arrive in a similar place for the most part, and often the difference is our in the world of cycling, as an example, it might be our bike handling that can make the difference and position us for success. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of variation when it comes to training, and what better opportunity to vary things up than 2020 and the way things have unfolded.
Exactly. I'm gonna show you what's happening in the women's race here. Your pick has been a good one, Dougal. Sophie here has pulled away from Amanda, gathered a 15-second lead. So she's got that magic number already. She pushed it up that little climb during the sprint stage. She's riding at around 4.5 to 5 watts, and around you can see they're hitting 300 watts, absolute power. Riding a very high cadence as she hits this downhill. And looking at her bike setup, I'd almost say that she may not even. Be a long-term Zwifter because that's quite a basic bike setup, and she has managed to just absolutely pull away from Amanda, who looks like she'll be swallowed up by that chase pack about 24 seconds back now.
Wow, yeah. There we go. Sophie's making me sound pretty intelligent, isn't she?
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit biased because she's from Alexandria and I'm up the road in Monica. So always nice to see the Central Otago athletes excelling. So how far has she got to hold this gap? How far from the finish are we, Anna?
She's only 6k in, so she's got to hold this for another 10k. And you do see,
We
yeah, Amanda here has dropped off. She's only 5 seconds ahead now of Nick Sproul. And a nice little chase pack here with Sophie Lysett, Eva Nugent, Karen Russo, and looks like Alexa Westphal has fallen off the back of that group with Joe Coxon and Amanda Cathro. Great to see them out racing just behind them. So this group of four, once they swallow up Amanda, which I think they will pretty soon, that'll be a group of five. And Sophie, she's got a great lead here, but that's a big group to be chasing her down, and that's a huge draft effect that they'll have rolling along these streets.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, wouldn't it, to know if Amanda made that decision deliberately, if she decided to fall back into the pack, or if Sophie just rode off her wheel. Because I'm looking at Sophie's power, and that 4 to 5 watts per kilo for an elite female cyclist, there's a very good chance she's riding above her threshold, above her FTP, and 10 kilometers above FTP. It's a big gamble, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she could have burnt all the matches bar one from her matchbox, and that last one is just burning down to the stub, and she may not make it. But she seems to be riding pretty consistently, and that gap has is pretty well high, 24 seconds now, as we see Amanda just get caught up by this group. You can just see the catch happening here with Amanda. She'll just pull into this pack. Now, she knows Zwift pretty well. I rode with her a little bit over lockdown, actually, did a few of the big 170k rides on Zwift, which was good times for all. And
Well,
yeah, she knows the game. She'll just slot in at the back now and recover. While looks like Nick Sproul, another old hand at the Zwift game, will take some turns. If they can just work together, I think they could catch Sophie. With we're looking at just under 10k to go now.
well, yeah. I mean, if you're doing 170k rides, chances are you've got a pretty good endurance base. And as we know, the endurance base can be the deciding factor in any format of this sort of racing. So, again, love to know what Amanda's thought processes were, whether she deliberately dropped back or not. But one thing's for sure: if she can ride 170k on Zwift, then bridging that gap over the next 10 kilometers is certainly not out of the question, eh?
Yeah, and she'll be juiced up on caffeine. She works for Coffee Culture down in Christchurch, so she'll have a lot of espresso on board, and that might just help her out in these last 10 kilometers. We'll just move across into the men's race. They're hitting 14.5k, so just on 2.5k to go. So we'll stay with these guys as they finish. We have seen a break. It looks like C. Clark with Prinsloo here, another Kiwi rider. They've pulled away from the Japanese riders and the Swiss rider. So this is a little select group of, looks like 4 that'll be coming into the finish, and they're going to be looking around and just seeing who's got the sprint legs.
Yeah, C. Clark. Have we got a first name there? Gosh, he's doing some work, eh? He has been attacking off the front relentlessly.
It looks like Craig Clark. So
Craig
Kiwi
Clark.
rider, we'll see if I can pull up his profile here. A level 34 Zwifter, so he well knows the game. An FTP of 380, which
Wow.
is extreme.
Holy moly.
Yeah, but the rider next to him's just dropped a feather power up, which probably not the best time in a flat portion of the race, because they will have a tiny little incline heading into the finish, and this group just gapping off I don't know, that flag there. We say finish, maybe flag behind coming through, but C. Clark, his 15 second is 12 watts per kg. So that's again pretty impressive, and that's someone who's had a very strong race tonight, and I think might just take it all the way to the line.
Yeah, and if he does, there's no arguing whether he deserved it or not, because he's making every attempt. Now, my money, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I've been doing a bit of stalking while we're talking, and that is Casey Munro. So I'm gonna throw it out there. He's my pick for this race, and I say that because he does have the pedigree he was a very good 70.3, but also Ironman athlete, and only retired quite recently as a professional. And so I would say he really only lines up for these courses when he's willing to have a real solid crack at it. So Casey, if you're listening, my money's on you, mate. No pressure.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll pick Munro and I'll pick Clark, and they're just coming into their last 900-ish meters until they finish this race. So it's all coming down to the mark here. As we see Dee Jenkin just pushing up to around 8 watts a kg there from the UK. You can see those orange numbers, and there's your man, Casey, 10 watt per kg. They're opening up their sprint here already.
Oh, this is going to be painful just watching. My eyes are watering. Look at that power. Holy
11
moly.
and a half from Clark. Looks like he may take and a perfect drop of the feather. So it does look like C. Clark there took it out just over Munro, I think, right on the line. But that was some impressive numbers. He really pushed that up to around that 11 watt per kg mark. Very, very great riding from C. Clark. He kind of really the most aggressive rider of the day.
Oh, he totally deserved it. I'd love to see the stats that follow this race. He'll have ridden well above his FTP and things like that. But again, Casey Munro will finish this and hopefully brick to a run. That's what I usually do when I lose to the cyclists, is I make myself feel better by putting some running shoes on.
Ah, yeah. So what do you do? Do you just head out on the road by your house, or have you got a sort of treadmill set up in a pain cave?
No, I haven't taken that plunge yet. I'm still running outdoors 100% of the time. But to be honest, I never thought I'd enjoy indoor riding either. And man, I've really taken to it like a duck to water. So who knows, that treadmill, if I could get it across the line with the head of finance in my household, then I think I'd probably quite enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know why I got on Zwift was, with kids, it's just a lot easier time efficiency wise to get on there, bang out like this, a really short, sharp race. It's a bit tricky now with all the traffic to get out and, hit some of those quality miles, especially in Auckland. I'm sure in Wanaka it's just absolutely beautiful. You can head out to the hills pretty easily, but yeah, it's a bit tricky here sometimes to get all that long course triathlon training in.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for eliminating a lot of variables sometimes. That's what I love about the cycling version of Zwift, is being able to, as I said earlier, put a program together that I believe is very specific to an individual, and know that regardless of what the weather's doing, and regardless of whether the kids are going to bed and all the rest of it, you can pull off that session exactly as the coach, intended for you to do.
Yeah, yeah. So we are just watching Sophie Williamson here. She's extended her lead to 40 seconds now on that chase group, which has been led here by Amanda Robinson. But I think they've just had a bit of the sting taken out there. They're not riding anywhere near the watts per kg that Sophie's been able to hold. So I think that lead is just going to continue to grow. So our thoughts about her getting caught by this pack, not so much going to happen. I think she's going to take this all the way to the line. She's got about 6 kilometers left to run with a big downhill.
Yeah, it would take a bit of a drop in blood sugar levels or something if her last meal was at lunchtime. There's still a chance she might blow to pieces. But yeah, as you say, her power relative to the power in that chase group is on another level at the moment, hey?
Yeah, and she's also riding, she's going against what I was saying before. She's riding around 110, 105, 110 cadence. So she's really spinning out here and pushing those watts up. So really impressive riding style. Is she was a road cyclist obviously in real life?
Yeah, she was. I think she's dabbled in cross-country mountain bike racing as well, but I think that's something we see in these riders that develop skills early on a bike. As they grow up, they become, very neurally functional at a young age, so they're able to hold a higher cadence. And as we know, with a higher cadence, it might be a little more stress on the heart and lungs, but a lot less stress on the muscles. And the heart and lungs are always going to last all day, whereas our muscles have a sort of an expiry date on them if we stress them too hard. So that's kind of the theory, I guess, in riding at a
Mm.
higher cadence, is shifting that load to the heart and lungs. And as I say, for Sophie, it comes as no surprise that she's able to hold, what is it, 110 RPM, which for a lot of people would feel very unnatural riding at that cadence. But for her right now, she probably feels like she's in that sweet spot.
Yeah. Do you know what the cadence world record is?
No idea.
So
Hit me.
a guy did it over in lockdown, over in Europe. I think he's a cyclocross rider. Now I might get the specific numbers wrong, but he did it on rollers, and he rode for 1 hour at I think 170.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. I tried to do that for 1 minute, and it was so hard. And yeah, there's some clips up on it on YouTube if you want to check it out. It was painful to watch, I gotta say.
Oh, yeah. It's actually one thing I love about watching BMX racing. I'll watch anything involving any format of cycling, but the BMX racing, with the shorter cranks and the fixed gear, their cadence is astronomical when they take off out of the starting gates.
Oh, it's just nuts. Yeah, that sport's next level, I've got to say. Uh, so a little, what I'm quite interested in is if you're doing a coast to coast race, which I just went down and ran Goats Pass, and that's probably
Oh,
one of the
nice.
most one of the most intense runs I've ever done in my life. Didn't realize it was quite so much up and quite so much rock jumping, but beautiful course. My legs were toast for probably a good 4 days after that. I mean, I'm not as much of a finely tuned athlete as you are, Dougal, but how do you then get prepped for an Ironman? That's what you did last year. How do you just get that fatigue out?
Yeah, fantastic question. I think, well, firstly, my fitness was built very specifically around the coast to coast. So I was conditioned, I guess, for that style of running, hence why it probably took me less time to come out the other side of it. But in some ways, that variation, you're crossing rivers and you're climbing over rocks and tree roots and things. I think in some ways that actually shortens the recovery duration thereafter. Whereas with a marathon or in a triathlon, where it's typically on roads and pavement surfaces, I think that repetitive nature, you can tend to really pound the calves and really pound the quad muscles. And in many ways, as I say, it can actually be a harder kind of activity to recover from on the other side.
Okay, interesting. And then, so you didn't feel any ill effects from that when you did Ironman? You were fresh as a daisy?
Yeah, I mean, psychologically, I've had a few ill effects because I hadn't won the race, which was the goal. But I'm glad I threw caution to the wind and entered Ironman because first and foremost, it was just such a pleasure to get back involved in that environment. I had been, you know, multi-sport and adventure racing for the best part of the previous 12 months, so it was super refreshing to go and join the Ironman crowd and enjoy that sort of atmosphere that's quite unique to that style of racing. But I have to say, hopefully he's not listening, but passing Cam Brown at 41K in the marathon was probably icing on the cake to an experience I was already enjoying anyway.
Oh, that's awesome. So just touching on, you said there you had a bit of race disappointment. So how do you work with athletes on, setting goals for a race? Do you set goals of, results focus, or do you focus more on the process?
Yeah, I think the outcome goals are okay. They need to be there as a carrot dangling in front of you, so you get out of bed each morning with an eye, an appreciation for why you're doing it. But as far as the approach that needs to happen to achieve that outcome, I do try and center the goals and the planning very much around the processes themselves and what I call the controllables, the things that the athlete have control over. And so, as I say, that the outcome, we can't beat around the bush. Everyone needs an outcome goal because it's, as I say, it's like a carrot that dangles in front of you. But the process itself is what'll make or break your ability to reach that outcome, eh?
Yeah, it's always an interesting one and it's been, brought more to the forefront just with everyone, having some events that have been cancelled that if they're, I think, too results focused, or too, outcome focused, like you said, it can be a really tough time. Whereas if you look at the process and like you mentioned at the start of this, people working on some other skill sets and maybe resilience and all of those skills we've had to delve into will help more when they come into race season.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're
And I'm
just
just yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm distracted by Sophie here because look at that consistency of that power and that cadence.
Yeah, she's had an absolutely phenomenal race. I'm just having a look through her Zwift power stats as we're talking. So she is actually a level 12 Zwifter, so she has been on for a reasonable amount of time. She's got a 20-minute power of 261 watts, but what I think is really impressive is her 5-minute power, 298. So she is obviously an absolute heavy hitter. And this course, she's just pulled away and basically stuck to that 20-minute power, and she's 2 kilometers from the finish line. Or 1 kilometer, sorry.
Oh, look at that! I wonder if she'll kick back and enjoy it, or do you think she'll be so competitive she'll want to really drive it home?
I think I'm gonna have to say I don't know her, but I'll say she'll drive it home. It looks like she's just that type of person, and she's gone, nope, the group was too slow. I'm off, and you can see she's got almost a minute on that group behind, and that's a group that is also very strong. So hands off to Sophie. That's been one of the best rides I've seen on this course.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Her power's gone up in the time we've been talking about whether she'd kick back and enjoy the last part of the race. So she's driving it home.
Yeah, looks like she just crossed the finish line there as well. So she pushed that power up to around the 330s. What will be interesting is this chase group because they'll be fighting it out for podium positions. And I know that Sophie Lysett from Foot Traffic, she'll be wanting to get that second place position. But Amanda, she's played it pretty smart since they got caught. She's stuck in the pack. She's drafted off. She's got a really good bike setup, very fast, very slick. So I don't know. Who do you think's got it out of this group?
Oh, too tough to call. It has dwindled a bit. It looks like they've thinned it down over the last few K. Here
And
we
we
go.
just
Someone's
saw
making a
Amanda
move.
open up a bit of a sprint there, but we have, it looks like Eva Nugent has got a perfect power up. She's got the aero power up. And Karen Russo, 8.4 watts per kg. Phenomenal, but just couldn't quite catch Eva with that aero power up. Perfect use of that. And that was a great finish in the women's race to take out second and third. But obviously, Sophie completely dominated that entire race from start to finish.
Oh, such honest racing, eh? And I think for a lot of these people, a race like this is really a training session in essence. It's a training session for bigger and better things. And watching those women race with such honesty, and I would imagine most of them will hit the showers now feeling pretty content with their efforts.
I reckon a few of them are going to get off and run. I just feel like that's the triathlete way, right? If you've had a hard effort and then just make it that little bit harder.
Yeah, well, Sophie's a cyclist, not a triathlete, so I can't imagine she'll be running. But looking out the window, it is beautiful out there. So who knows? She might brick to an outdoor
Yeah,
spin down or something like that. Add
she
an
might.
extra 30K to the session.
She might be a convert now. We might see her on the triathlon races this season. So that was a nice, short, sharp Wednesday night and prep for what I'm very excited about, a great race season. I'll be racing in a couple of weeks, actually, in another adventure race down at the Rodney Coastal Classic. So getting into a bit of your area, Dougal.
Fantastic, Anna. I'm pleased to hear it. I've got a few athletes doing that same event, so I know the format well. I haven't done it myself, but I know what you're in for, and I wish you all the best.
Yeah, and good luck to all of the people racing in Tinman this weekend, one of the first national champs. And if you want to see the whole schedule of races, head to the Try New Zealand website, and it's got all the races coming up this season. Super lucky that we've got almost a race on every weekend now till March. And Dougal, any parting words?
No, all I would say is, to Triathlon New Zealand, and obviously they're big supporters like Suzuki. I would like to thank everyone in behind this because it has been a tricky year for a lot of people, and myself included. We've really benefited from having these opportunities to socialize on the screen and race. So thanks very much to you and your team for everything you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, Dougal, and thanks for joining us tonight. And see you later, everyone. Have a good rest of your Wednesday.